Hey guys, I'm Dill Comic Books and welcome back to the Comic Book Clubhouse. Today, we're diving deep into the world of Spawn, one of the most iconic comics of the 90s and probably the most successful too. Spawn 1 wasn't just the start of a hero's journey, it was the beginning of a whole different thing in comics entirely. And a lot of that is because of Spawn's creator, Todd McFarlane. Without Todd McFarlane's huge step away from Marvel Comics with the help of 6 other Marvel creators, there would be no Image Comics today. I mean, Todd McFarlane is still the president of the company. Image Comics helped revolutionize the comic book industry and allowed for creators to have a lot more freedom with their work and to own it themselves. And for me, Image Comics has published the very best in comics ever since its inception in 1992. Spawn became one of the standout Image titles that went on to define the entire 1990s, the entire era in comics. In this episode, we're not just going to talk Spawn or Todd McFarlane or Image Comics, we're also going to flip through that very first iconic issue, and I'll walk you through some of the themes and the art and the standout moments. So grab your copy or follow along with me, and let's head over there now. Guys, today we're going to be looking at Spawn #1 in a trade paperback copy I have, a beat up old trade paperback. I know everybody has owned Spawn #1 at some point in their life, but I have no idea where my copy has gone to after all these moves I've been through all these years. I'm going to have to get my hands on another copy at some point. Here it is, by the way. This is the cover of Spawn #1. So just imagine this popping off the shelves in 1992 and how different a book this must have been for people back then. Consider, too, Todd McFarlane is coming off a legendary run on Spider-Man, a transformative run on Spider-Man, and he's bringing a lot of what people loved about his Spider-Man run into Spawn, only he's turning it up to 11 and mixing in heavy metal and the devil, to put it lightly. So you get a lot of what made his Spider-Man great as far as the art, and then what everyone was looking for in comics at the time. And what an awesome first page it is too, how he sucks you into this world. Literally, he sucks you into the world, literally, from outer space all the way down into this super gothic, New York City, the New York City of Spider-Man and so many other heroes, except this time way darker and, mightier, almost more majestic, more looming and threatening and doomed than ever before. This too, I'm sure a lot of you will recognize this just like I do. The lightning bolts that light up the silhouettes of the building and then light up Spawn's silhouette overlooking the city. It's so straight out of Batman. It's right out of Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. That was 1985. So this is only a short, few years later. You can really see the influence of Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns on Spawn. I think there's a lot of Todd McFarlane's one of those creators where when you look at his work, you can really see his appreciation and his fandom of comics. He's a guy who he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's a firebrand. You watch him in interviews, you see the way he talks. He really bleeds comics. There's a lot you can say about, Todd McFarlane as an artist or Todd McFarlane as a writer, but what you can't criticize him for is his love of comics. And if it wasn't for that love of comics, of course, we wouldn't have the Image Comics we have today. Another cool thing happening on these early pages of Spawn are the flashes of memory in Al Simmons' mind, who he was, how he became Spawn, his wife, the devil, the deal he made, right? The suffering he went through. It's really well laid out, I think. He does a lot with page layouts, does Todd McFarlane. And really, it's another trademark of 90s comics that they played around a lot with, breaking the rules. Actually, there's probably nothing more punk than Image Comics when you think about it, because these guys walked out of corporate jobs. They walked out of pretty well-paid salaried jobs at Marvel Comics. The dream for most creators working for Marvel Comics on recognized legendary heroes like Spider-Man, like the X-Men. And they traded that all in. They threw that away, really, in rebellion against the industry, and they founded Image Comics. Todd McFarlane, really leading the charge there. So it's really cool that he believed in himself enough, and that those other creators did too, to to put the pedal to the metal and stand up for themselves and make what became Image Comics today. And wow, what a way to announce it too on the stands, because I mean, look at some of this artwork. The way the Spawn's cape flows and the chains and the spikes. Actually, the first thing this makes me think of, besides just being really, really cool art, I hope I'm getting it all in the frame, is McFarlane's toys. Maybe you guys don't remember. Maybe you're a little younger than me. But Todd McFarlane went from, comic book artist and writer, creator, to like major business player really quickly in the 90s. Like the spin-offs we got with Spawn were so severe. Like not severe, but like explosive. McFarlane Toys started to do like DC toys and Doom and sports toys, baseball. Like the licensing was unbelievable. And Spawn toys, and especially Spawn in this original outfit, that's when I definitely had on my shelf as a kid. And I'm talking like 6 or 7 years old. Like this image of Spawn was as present to me as a kid from the 90s as Superman must have been for kids earlier on, or Spider-Man or whoever. And what a thing too to have in your head when you're 6 or 7 years old. Maybe some of you have the same experience. I mean, you get to see a little bit of that 90s action right away too. Spawn throwing these guys through windows. I like this as well. And this is something you see here and there with Image Comics, are like shout outs to other comics in the universe, if you can say, by the publisher. This shout out to Youngbloods, which was the first series of comics Image ever did. It was a Rob Liefeld book. You could say a lot of this has to do with Rob Liefeld too, but we'll save him for another day. And then you get to see a bit of Spawn's powers in action, like these devil powers he has, these total demon powers, vanquishes all these enemies. McFarlane really having fun with the character. And apparently this Spawn character was like one Todd McFarlane was playing around with ever since he was like 16 years old. So imagine what it must have been like to like leave Spider-Man behind. And how funny is that? All the webbing on the page. What a little shout out that must be. To leave Spider-Man behind and then get to, run with it. Get to run with your own character just all of a sudden and see it explode like it did. I mean, think about this. Spawn sold like 1.7 million copies of this first issue when it first hit shelves. That's insane, making it the highest selling or best selling indie comic ever. So it didn't only work, this rebellion against Marvel by those 7 artists, Todd McFarlane included, really led by Todd McFarlane. But it was so successful, like really the rest is history. It changed everything forever. Look at Image Comics today, putting out the best comic books there are going today. I'm sure everybody who's watching this, your favorite comic book series is an Image comic book series. Even if you're not a fan, if you're somebody looking to get into comics, no doubt about it, Image is one you're going to look at first, whether it be The Walking Dead or Saga or Invincible or really a plethora of other series. Image is so creator focused and set the stage for so many of the greats. A lot of people will look at what Todd McFarlane was doing besides great art and say, it's so childish, or not childish, but so juvenile, like, it's all fight scenes and devils and it doesn't even make sense. But that doesn't matter, because if Todd McFarlane hadn't taken those steps forward in rebellion with Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri and Rob Liefeld and everybody else, I can't think of all 7 off the top of my head, we wouldn't have the great Image Comics that we have today. So they walked, right? So everybody else could run. And I think that's as important as anything. Really cool reveal here too, almost like a Deadpool reveal. And Rob Liefeld, a partner at Image Comics at the time, was the one who created the character, right? You kind of get like a Deadpool sort of reveal with Spawn too, that he's all like burnt up or disfigured in some way. Like this loss of humanity is really staggering. I think it's cool. And by the way, these detectives, Sam and Twitch, they're major McFarlane characters as well. They're going to have their own spin-off series. They're going to be really big with McFarlane fans, with Spawn fans. And then that last page, how that last page hits, I really like the The laughter running down the page too. It's like super jokery. It's almost, again, like a huge pull from The Killing Joke, but it's fits so well here too. And then that reveal of our like super villain, this Malebolgia, the devil. And I have to show you the first page of the next issue, even though I'm not going to talk about it today. The Violator, such a cool, such a twisted and weird character. And guys, one of the first comic book memories I have ever is of seeing the Spawn movie, 1997. I was 6 or 7 years old. And the clown in that movie, the Violator in that movie, was played so well by John Leguizamo. That's like a major standout comic book moment for me. And I just had to show it here at the end of this issue. I can't talk about Spawn and not talk about the Violator. So Spawn number 2, maybe another day. So guys, that's Spawn number 1, one of the most iconic comic books of the entire 90s. If you're an Image Comics fan like I am, you know how important Todd McFarlane is to comic books. And I can't wait to see what we get into next week. So make sure to like and subscribe, and see you back here next week at the Comic Book Clubhouse. I'm Dill Comic Books. Till then.